So welcome back to Handball New Zealand Kōrero. I'm back with Luke Ireland, who has just finished his experience in Saudi Arabia with the Sydney Uni competing at Club Champs. Thought today, Luke, you could start us off with giving us a bit of a summary of the tournament for people who weren't able to stay up all those late nights and hear about how things went. And I know that there'll probably be a game in particular that you might want to mention a bit of.
Yeah. He's talking about the first game and our loss against Magdeburg. Must be there. Yeah, look, it was a terrific tournament. I mean, the whole thing really showcases, handball around the world and the styles and the quality that you can see in these leagues. As I just mentioned, our first game was against Magdeburg, which currently are leading the Bundesliga, and so much of the conversation in the lead up to that game was basically just talking about how quality an opposition we were going up against and what that then meant for our game plan. So, like any good underdog team, you try to slow it down as much as possible, try to prevent essentially them to get into any kind of groove. And I think, look, we did that to the best of our abilities there. I think it was something like 12 goals the difference, but we ended up scoring 20 ourselves, which, when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, I think was a positive start to the tournament. It showed the willingness and the fight of the team. That was positive for our start. But look, that is a phenomenal team. I mean, they ended up going on to win the whole thing. So they're no schmucks, and even what they were playing was more or less a partial second string team. It was still incredible to see the quality they were able to put on the field. It's just the situation where we put in one-on-one, they can draw two guys plus type thing, quite comfortably, and the speed in which they're doing it. You're almost accepting that there is a shot that they could get off at any time. It's about limiting what that sort of high percentage shot could look like. So yeah, it was a top start. We then played Zamalek in the second game, and that's the team from Egypt. The physicality that they showed was unlike any other team in that competition. They ran Barcelona very close. I think it was only 3 goals in their game, which was before the one that we played them in, which kind of demonstrates the quality that they had, and the physicality, as I said, was something else. You had shirts being ripped, you had bruises and scratches, but almost immediately from the get-go. So I guess I was quite lucky to only be playing wings, so I didn't quite experience the full brunt of it. But again, they were a terrific team, and what they showed is you can have this sort of elegance, even though you can be quite brutal. Some of the speed and the way they move the ball was just incredible, and their fight, right? That didn't matter. They ended up beating us by 19 goals, and they were still 15 ahead and wanting to push harder. So as a team, we appreciate that, I think, because at the end of the day, you're there to try to do your best, and so you ask the opposition to do the same. So look, it was terrific to go up against such a fierce competitor like Zamalek, and then to finish. So Al Wada, one of the best teams in Saudi Arabia, and having picked up some really quality players through transfers, they were looking incredibly strong coming into it. We had actually played a warm-up game at the university beforehand before the tournament started, and we had kind of shown some positivity there in terms of some of the goal scoring and movement on the ball, but we weren't. The scoreline in that warm-up game, I think there was 5 or 6 goals in it, so we knew that coming up into this game it was going to be difficult, and they raised the bar again in the first half, and full credit to their attacking setup, and especially the pressure they put on our attack. A few balls just going a bit wayward, a few shots that probably should have been stuck. Their keeper was phenomenal in that first half. He really did play out of his skin, and so we're staring down the barrel of, I think, a 9-goal deficit at half time. A lot of people have sort of been asking about, what does the coach say? How do you turn that around? And it was the same thing that he'd been telling us the whole tournament, right? It was about, guys, you're showing the will the will out there, the fight out there. But what we're looking for now is something a bit more than that. Actually execute the game plan. Go out there and show me that you can do what we've talked about over the last 10 days together. And lo and behold, that's exactly what we did. And it was something else to go on. I think it was a 9-1 run or something similar to that to start that second half. And the next thing you know, we're knocking at the door of a result. And very, very, very happy to then turn away with a 26-all draw, which for a team of guys that sort of had come together 9-10 days beforehand, we were absolutely ecstatic with. So yeah, that was the final game. The emotions were just unparalleled. I mean, you and myself have obviously played in the national team and yet to experience the thrill of not losing. So there was, it was just something else to have a comeback like that in a team environment like that. It was just a magical 30 minutes.
It's probably really satisfying to end, as you said, executing that game plan and having all that hard work that you've no doubt done over that week and the time leading up to it pay off and actually see the handball that you guys were probably capable of, where probably against those other teams you weren't probably so able to execute those as easily. So it sounds absolutely incredible. But I guess on a personal level, it was really great to see you on the score sheet, getting some of those shots off and things like that. And you talked before the tournament about spending most of your time on the wing and doing that. How did you find that transition? And I guess that time playing on the wing being different to, we all know Wellington handball, kind of, we can be on the wing and we can do all right, but we know that this is a bit of a big step up. So
yeah, it's certainly a different role to what I've played both with the Fruit Flies as well as the New Zealand team, right? So this is a much different way to contribute to the cause and to what the team needs. But look, it's probably one of the best positions, I think, as someone, comparatively who didn't have as much experience as the rest of the guys. A lot of these people, had been playing as quite an experienced team. A lot of these guys had started playing a year or two after I was born, type thing. And then 16 years later, after I was born, I started playing. So kind of paints a picture of actually people that have grown and lived the sport, that they completely get it. So for me to play on the wing, I think has certain limited responsibilities, but it's probably the impact of when you are called on is massive, right? As a winger, you are expected to finish on attack, and when the ball comes my way, that's the only thought you have to have in your mind is a shoot first mentality. And when you don't feel the angle's right, making that judgment call then and there, whether you pull it out or whether you go for it. And I was really fortunate to have Bevan Calvert, one of Australia's greatest players that they've produced, certainly of late, talking me through some of my decision making, the way I should be approaching the game. It was terrific to have guys like that. Our goalkeepers especially as well, talking to me about the angles, how they felt my jump and my shot looked like in terms of whether it was possible to make certain shots and with what kind of angle I was shooting at. So look, it was a really interesting experience, and it shows that perhaps in the Wellington League there is a bit of a respite that you can have on the wing, but at that level there just isn't a moment to stop. You're on defense. The opposite side could have the ball and they're casually talking, but that doesn't mean that your guy's is doing nothing. He's thinking about the second pivot. He's thinking about how he could rotate out for the crossing. And what we see a lot of in this level was the winger fully coming out to the centre to pick up the ball, to then draw back into their position to start. And there's just a lot of movement going on that perhaps otherwise you wouldn't see, certainly at our level. So to experience that and to understand when I needed to step out and when I needed to pull back and focus on ball versus pivot and all these things was massive. But look, you had a great bunch of guys behind me that could actually talk me through some of that. And yeah, like you say, it was ecstatic to get on the score sheet each of the games. And to find my wing shot was something that I had been working on for all the 7 days in the lead up to it. It was never something that I'd really put much effort in. Again, I was selected initially as the right back, and as we sort of played out in some of the prep in the games, we felt that the ball movement was stronger with Bevan as back, and then me as wing, and we also had Hassan, who was a professional player in Tunisia. So the experience there sort of lent itself to me being on the wing, and you got to do what's needed for the team and to get the best outcome, and that's how they saw it. And I mean, we saw in the away game, I think I played something along the lines of 50 minutes type thing, and the majority of that on the wing. So like, it was terrific to have found my niche, and as a team to improve. As the tournament goes on, you can only then trust more and more that ball is going to come to you, and when that does, you've got to make sure it counts.
Definitely. I guess again, being surrounded in that Sydney Uni environment, you talked about professional players. Obviously, a lot of the teams that you're playing are fully professional. It's their job to play handball. Is there anything that you took from that experience, being around that professional environment, that you think that those pearls of wisdom, or just the way that they do things, that are going to be helpful for people to hear about?
Yeah, I mean, not playing on a Sunday tends to help some of the morning wake up for some of these games. But no, look, I think they approach it quite similar to a lot of the mentality that I think you see even at the grassroots level in New Zealand. And I'm not just talking about handball there. I'm talking about your general sports, right? It's understanding your body. It's understanding what you need to do to be in the right space at the right time, as well as mentally. That was perhaps the biggest challenge I found is actually the step up when you're having to think all the time, when you're having to understand, I guess, how your abilities on the court can actually be managed, because in the Wellington League, I think you have a very clear understanding of exactly your role and exactly your limits and how you can play your game. Whereas here you're coming up, literally each day against a whole new opponent with a whole different range of experiences. And so a lot of it just came down to how these guys actually conduct themselves in the warm up, how they're looking after their bodies, what their kind of exercises are, the niggles that they've had in their sort of careers. And if you've experienced anything similar, certainly some of the shoulder exercises that I was doing, I took a sort of leaf out of a few other guys and just followed through on that. But a lot of it just comes down to the talking and the experience. I don't think there was necessarily any one pearl of wisdom that I could honestly put my finger on. But professionalism in a general sense, I think was quite clear in that environment, and that's all you can do is take it seriously, to put yourself, your best foot forward, and that means whatever to anyone. So yeah, it was just perhaps the variety of the way in which people prepped. Certain guys listening to quite hardcore music, other one chap actually with his headphones on listening to classical. It was quite literally the polar opposites there. So it's any which way, but at the end of the day, they were all taking it seriously and all understood the task at hand. And I think is once you understand the gravitas of what you're up against, that's when okay, I need to take it seriously, and everyone has their own way of doing it.
And so I guess finally, a couple of weeks in Saudi Arabia. Talk us through that experience. Probably a brand new country. We went to Kuwait last year for the men's team, but I'd say even different again.
Yeah, it was certainly a very unique time, and one that did quite fondly surprise me. I had the privilege to have been in contact with one of the chaps from the Saudi Handball Federation, as well as the Ministry of Sport in Saudi Arabia. They were kind enough to be in contact with me in the lead up to the tournament, partly because of a lot of the anxiety and stress that I was feeling, whether or not this was actually going to happen, and whether my grand plan to get there was actually going to be pulled off. And so, look, they were terrific and incredible hosts. I think the thing you've got to know about the people in the kingdom is actually just how incredible they are when it comes to their kindness and their hosting. They were amazing and allowing us to train and have a bit of a lead into the tournament. That was, full courtesy from the Saudi Federation, and they were able to help organize, our buses, our training facilities. We, the warm-up game against Al Wada, all working with the Saudi Federation, because all they wanted to do was to provide us with the best opportunity and the best experience as well in Saudi Arabia. So look, that was phenomenal. We even got ourselves a cheeky little beach trip to polish off the our time, which was terrific. And you could honestly, you were sitting on the beach, you're looking out into the sunset, and you could be anywhere in the world. It really was something else, and pretty incredible to be in whatever desert that we were sitting in, and then not half an hour's drive, there you are on the beach in Jeddah. It's a really unique opportunity to be able to have experienced. And I was just very, very thankful for what the people of Saudi Arabia were able to do for us. And we had a few sponsors that were situated there, so Aussie Grills, Outback Steakhouse. They were terrific in allowing us to actually support both financially, as well as letting us go to their restaurants and experiencing their food. It was terrific, and they were amazing people. They were coming up, they're talking about handball, despite the fact they had very limited knowledge of the sport, but they were curious, they were passionate, they were just excited to have a bunch of guys from whole different walks of life coming together, and being quite excited to be in Jeddah. So look, we were incredibly appreciative of all that they did for us, and overall the country was really a unique experience to have gone through, and wouldn't trade it for the world.
That sounds great. So all in all, obviously the 2022 Asian Men's Championships are being held in Saudi in January next year. So it promises to be a great tournament over there. I'm sure Saudis, if they've done a great job with you, they're going to continue that on in January, which would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. They're pulling together something special there. I'm sure they're very passionate, and there's certainly a drive from I think the Saudi government to be increasing their participation in the sporting arena, both nationally and internationally. So looking forward to seeing how that pans out. I think the New Zealand involvement might be one that we have to rethink, just with our situation with MIQ. But if that's the case, then I'm sure it won't be too long before you see a New Zealand team or members of the New Zealand Federation back in Saudi Arabia at some point in the future.
Nice. Cool. That about wraps us up. Just before we do wrap this up, are you anyone else that you'd like to thank or get a shout out to while you've got our expanding audience captive?
No, it's probably all right. Probably the only shout out I'll give is, not to my family, but to Kasim for all his help in the lead up to the Super Globe. He was instrumental, and if nothing else, just calming me down and letting me know that I did have friends in Saudi Arabia that was going to make it work. So I was incredibly appreciative of him. But look, there are all these guys that made this happen, from the New Zealand side, from the Sydney Uni side, and from Saudi, too many to name. But it's what it's shown for me is just the passion and the desire from Oceania to increase the participation in handball, to raise our profile, and hopefully an 8th place finish is something the IHF does take note of, and wants to increase our participation at events like this going forward, and who knows what doors that then unlocks down the track. But excited to be a part of it, and I'm sure this won't be the last time that we have a kōrero. Hopefully not.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining me again. I know it's late over there and early over here, and making the times work was hard, but we got there, and got there. Look forward to the chat next time. Awesome. Appreciate it. Thanks, Cam.